About this love. About this love.
How you guys doing today? About This Love podcast with myself, Dale, and my wife, Sherelle. We are back. Say what's up, Sherelle.
Am I supposed to say what's up like that? What's up, Sherelle, or what's up, peoples?
Hey, say it however you want to say it. But back with us today, we have Reno. Reno is back in the building. Well, he's not in the building. He's more so like on the airwaves, but y'all get the hint. He's back with us today. Sherelle, so what are we going to be talking about today, Sherelle?
Wait, so he's back and then Sherelle needs to introduce what we're talking about?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, guys, as you know, I still haven't done the intro because I just wanted to put that out there. But Dale is allowing me to introduce today's guest. It's his brother. If you guys heard part 1 and was looking forward to part 2, well, we have him back on. And so part 1, we were just talking more so about the domestic violence. We were talking about his upbringing and also his thoughts and life somewhat throughout his 20s and his experience with being locked up. Now, I kind of get into the tail end of that. That's how we ended the last conversation with him. And so in this episode, we want to kind of dive into the love that he found or experienced or didn't experience after being locked up. Because you were married, right, Reno?
Yes, I was married for 3 years. I was married and it was for 3 years, yes.
Was that like while you were, locked up or?
Yes, it was after I had gotten out. It wasn't long after I had gotten out that we got married. As a matter of fact, a month after I got out, no longer than 2 months. To be exact, I'm just trying to recollect to the best of my knowledge, no longer than 2 months after I was out, we was married.
Wow. So was this somebody that you knew while you were locked up? Because I know you mentioned in the last conversation that we had that you went in when you were 19. So was this somebody from your childhood or did you guys become, pen pals? I was going to say PayPal, not PayPal. Pen pals? Or how was that connection made?
She was actually my high school sweetheart. We met in high school and was together before I had gotten incarcerated. We had been together for about 2 years before I had gotten incarcerated. Again, to the best of my knowledge, we were together of 1.5 years to 2 years before my incarceration. And then while I was in the county, to be exact, I was in the county, she would write me and I would write her. And she came to visit me one time while I was in that county. But once I transitioned, after the actual sentencing, I was scheduled to go to the actual penitentiary to do my time, to transition from the county jail to the penitentiary. But once I got down there to the actual penitentiary itself, I never heard from her again. I think I heard from her in the whole entire 12 years. I heard from her like one letter from her one time in the whole entire 12 and a half years. And then I had gotten out and married her.
So did you let her know that you was getting out? Like, how did you guys like reconnect within those like 2 months to like be married, to get married?
I had an aunt that kept communications with her and would let her know the progress of my time. And then I had some cousins, very close cousins that were involved in my life that let her know that as well. And so when the time came for me to make parole, when I actually made parole and was at the facility where they send you to release you from, was released from Huntsville, Texas, caught the Greyhound to San Antonio, Texas, and they were there waiting on me there in San Antonio. That's how that happened. She was there at the time, just the mother of my child. My cousin was there. They were there to pick me up.
So you were incarcerated for 12 and a half years. How did the marriage go about? And what did you experience in the marriage? Who said what? How did this kind of all this start? As far as you guys wanted to be married?
When we married each other, there's what you want in theory. You want a perfect relationship in theory. You want things to be perfect in theory, but the reality is something that's not really considered as much as our own theory and our own minds pertaining to whatever subject we're really into or passionate about. So in theory, we thought we would have the perfect marriage, but in reality, we grew apart. The reality is that we grew apart. When I went to that place, I was a young adult. I was 19 years old. Most people would say I was still a kid, and she was a young woman, and most people would say that she was a kid. And so throughout the years, she was out here in society, evolving as a woman, as a independent woman. And throughout the years, I was in the penitentiary, evolving as a man, as a independent man in a prison system. So we were evolving in two different worlds. It's hard enough for people to have a connection when they're evolving in the same world.
That's true.
When you got this man who meets this woman at HEB, neither one of them, or a grocery store of some kind, or at a schoolhouse, wherever they meet, neither one of them has been to the penitentiary. Neither one of them has been. Both of them have been evolving in society together. It's hard enough for those kind of relationships, and then to have a relationship where she's evolved in society and I'm evolving in the penitentiary. That's a whole other ball game. So we grew apart. She grew up in her way and I grew up in my way. And to be fair, I was inside of a environment where you have to become selfish. Again, some people might beg to differ, but in that place where you have criminals and career criminals and everybody's in there for breaking the law, which in and of itself is an element of selfishness, in most cases, in quotation marks, in all cases, you protecting yourself from other people have to become selfish in order to live and in order to survive. So in my own way, when I got out of the penitentiary to be connected with her, I was not ready to be in a marriage relationship because you can't be selfish when you're married to somebody. So I had selfishness stacked on top of selfishness. I was selfish because I was taught that while growing up, because of the things I witnessed in my household and the point of reference that was left to me as an example how to live, and that's for better or for worse. And then on top of that, when I went to the penitentiary, I had more selfishness stacked upon my life in order to survive that place.
In what ways in your marriage were you selfish? What did you do that was selfish?
I cheated.
Oh, okay. Wow.
I cheated because I couldn't cope with the structure of the marriage. I couldn't cope with with the conflict we were having. I was having a hard time coping with the conflict. I had a hard time coping with the structure of a marriage. It was too much for me. It was a burden on me. Mm-hmm. If you think about it, it's something you got to get used to. It can be a burden on anybody.
A burden in what way?
Well, you can't be selfish. And so if you're used to being selfish and then you marry somebody and you're used to being selfish, selflessness is kind of awkward. And practicing selflessness, being forced to practice selflessness and being wooed to practice selflessness, it can be a strange burden because you're not used to it.
Yeah.
But as you become comfortable with practicing it and you start to become more and more selfless, more and more selfless, it becomes easy. And then when selfishness is presented to you, when somebody's selfish or you do something selfish, that'll make you feel awkward and funny now. In some real ways, by default, because of what I went through growing up and because I had experienced in the penitentiary, by default, I was just walking selfishness. But at the same time, what equally hurt the marriage just the same, if not worse, but just the same, we didn't know each other. We grew apart.
That's what I was going to ask.
So,
did you guys get any counseling leading up to your, even within those 2 months? Because I know that some people just move fast. They move fast, but they're also intentional in that time. Like I know a couple who's been married probably 15 years now and have 3 children together that her husband was in the military and I don't know what she was doing, but basically they move fast, but I guess not that they didn't go through things in the earlier portion of their marriage, but I think that love there, drove them to the altar a lot faster. You know what? Honestly, I don't know how long they actually like dated or courted one another. But it seemed like, for what I heard, I think it was like a blind date. But from there, they had what Dale likes to call like a love spark or something. And they got married really quickly.
That's the word she made up. She gonna throw it on me.
No, okay, y'all, real quick, not to sidetrack, but if y'all heard that episode, was it episode 51? Y'all know he was using love spark all throughout that episode. So, anyways, I just wanted to know, did you guys get any type of counseling or any type, like, was there any type of push to get married, or was that just like, hey, you here for me, I'm starting my life over, you gonna hold me down, so let's just, and like you said, that was the mother of your child. So was that, like, what was the motivation for you guys to get married so quickly?
It was outside influences telling us to get married. And outside influences can be very, very powerful voices. And those outside influences, they mean well, but sometimes, these are outside influences that pushing you to do something in a superficial, do something that's long lasting, something that's very important, something that takes time to think over in a superficial way.
Yeah.
And we listen to those outside voices, and we hurried along and commit. And we did not get counseling before we got married, and we did not get counseling while we was married, and we did not get counseling after marriage. And yes, marriage counseling, and having go-to people, certain people, not just anybody, but certain go-to people, is very important to have and to maintain a healthy marriage.
Since you're divorced, have you remarried, or has your ex-spouse remarried?
I haven't. She has.
Okay.
I haven't moved on yet in that regard, but she has.
Okay.
But in the time that you guys have like been together, and you guys got together, you were out, like, I think I want to focus in on, or just focus in on the topic around like getting help, the importance of getting help, getting therapy. Because I know, like, our last conversation was just so heavy. It's like, wow. And something you said to me, I'm not sure, I don't remember if it was on air or off air, but you said to me, that you gave it over to the Lord, and the Lord actually, was the one who helped you to, love your stepfather after experiencing that and not wanting to bring harm to him in any sort of way. And so I was just thinking, at what point do we ever stop to take a breath? Because we can just go, and you look up and you're 30, right? For me, I felt like I was going, looking up, and it's like, oh, I'm about to be 30. I mean, I'm still 20 young, but you could be 30. But for you, it's like, after you got out, you were going, wife, kids, trying to just get back into society. And now it's like, wait, I haven't been able to get my footing. And not saying like aside from the Lord, like the Lord isn't enough, but I think that, the importance.
Getting outside help, I was thinking about.
Yeah, getting outside help for just the parts of the Lord that you don't understand, or the parts of life that you don't understand. Yeah. Was there any program or anything, or anyone who was just like, you know what, let me just kind of let me show you the way, brother. I see you struggling. I see what you've been through, even if it was just after being incarcerated. I see what you've been through. Let me just show you the way.
No. I didn't have no type of mentoring whatsoever, and I needed that. In that experience, I come to realize that there's a lot of people who need that.
Yeah.
People come in the system all the time, and they preach to us and they teach us. They preach to us the word. They teach us the word. And Christianity is not the only religion that has people from society coming in. Other religions have people from society coming in. But in Christianity, the people who come in, they come in and they preach the cross of Christ, which is a very important message. Without that message, we have nothing at all. But then there's a practicality side of the gospel. There's a practicality side of the Word of God. There's a therapeutic side of the Word of God. There's a counseling and regular, homely, socialistic advice that you need alongside the cross itself. And so I never got that aspect of it. And it's crazy because you can have so much potential, but not having the mentorship, and not having, the practical side of living and in growing and development and all those things, you can still not be optimized in the potential of being the best you in life. So I didn't have that. So in certain ways, I was kind of crippled.
Yeah.
But if I myself could be a mentor and I could go back, or if I had to go back to speak to them, let's just say particularly the subject of love, the subject of reintegration back in society. I would tell them, when you get out of that place, when you get out of that place and you're in society, you don't even know who you are in society because you've been locked up. You don't even know who you are in society. You got to come to know who you are in society. You got to come to learn society. You got to become reintegrated into society and master who you are out there. Then once you come to love yourself in society, and you don't fall short of loving yourself in society, then you are in a position to maybe begin to start a romance relationship that leads into marriage afterwards. So, somebody might say, well, that's kind of hard to do. You've been starved of love for so many years. And I'm not saying that it's easy, but it still needs to be done. There's a lot of things in life that we need to do out of responsibility and out of obligation and responsibility. That's not easy, but it still needs to be done. I don't recommend somebody who just got out the penitentiary, especially if they've been locked up for a long time. I don't recommend you getting into a romance relationship. It's okay to have friends. So it's okay to have friends. It's okay to have, to get to know somebody, but I don't recommend a romance relationship to the point of marriage until you can get to know yourself a little bit more while out here in this society, and master yourself and become unenveloped in selfishness first.
Yeah.
While out here in society, because when you're locked up, you are going to inevitably it's inevitable that you are selfish.
Yeah, that's true.
It's inevitable that you are self-consumed because you had to adapt to a survival mode that was going to preserve you, and adapting to that survival mode, that was going to preserve you. It's a lot of selfishness there. It's all about you, I mean, you can't have that all about you when you're getting married. People that ever been to the penitentiary make it all about them and have to learn that lesson. So how much greater is someone who has been to the penitentiary and had to become selfish to self-preserve?
Wow.
Now, it's interesting, because as you speak, I think about just the scriptures like Genesis, and even certain individuals in the scriptures like Esther, and how the culture and the upbringing that she was a part of actually prepared her to be a wife. In the scriptures, like, it's not really spoke about too much, but we know for a fact that Joseph, Jesus' earthly father, he was a carpenter. Why was he a carpenter? Well, because Joseph was a carpenter.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus was a carpenter because his father was a carpenter. That's why he was a carpenter. So a lot of the culture back then kind of taught people or taught children, taught women, taught young boys, taught young men to have a trade. The young girls at early ages learn to work the fields or work the kitchen and work the house so you could cook and become a good mother and a good wife. But oftentimes in today's society, in today's culture, that's not really the case, So what society does is they lie to us. Like what you said on your previous podcast, basically you were saying that how can you expect somebody to be a good husband or a father? They have an idea. You said that they have an idea or a theory of what it looks like. But the reality of it is, if Dale ain't never had no father, or Dale ain't never had no mother, or Sheree never had no mother, how could she possibly know how to be a wife and how to be a mother? Like, nobody ever asks these questions. Did you have a father? No. So how can he possibly know how to be a good father? Now, don't get me wrong. People will argue, well, I did it, and I never had a father. I never had a mother. I was an orphan. Well, you are the exception to the rule,
And I think those
Correct.
are far and few between as
Yeah.
well.
Statistically speaking, true. And those who say such things where I never had, or that trauma didn't affect me, They're right. No, it didn't affect you. But statistically speaking, you are a very rare exception to the rule.
Diamond in the rough. A diamond in the rough.
I was going to say, I was thinking about just the ones who we have seen maybe in the public eye that has put those things on display, as far as like being able to sustain a healthy relationship or being able to sustain a healthy marriage, like healthy relationships with their children, a healthy marriage with their wives or with their husbands. And I was thinking, yes, they're the exception. They're an anomaly, really. And yes, they are. However, don't think that you see their smiles on this end or in the public, but you don't see the pain or the hurt that, that they've had to go through, they had to tarry through. And I think that's the part where, we lie to people about. It's like, yeah, I did it. I think it's the same for me. I think it's the same about single motherhood. There was a show out called Teen Mom, and I think, when things were going sour with one of the fathers, the mom was like, well, that's fine because me and my son, we can just go off and start over and somebody's going to love me and my child. And she said it so boldly because, one, it's true. I mean, she could, because she has that hope for herself. It's true. She sure can go and do that. But the way that it was glamorized, and the way that she said it, it was given without context. And it's like, you can easily forget that, yeah, I can go on. I can go have this baby by Tony or by Jim or whoever,
some
right?
Rando.
Yeah, some rando, and then find love and secure love afterwards, by somebody else who will love me and my child. But I think the problem that comes in is just that we don't talk about, the struggles, maybe the many years, the suffering. Well, yeah, right. the suffering, the scars, the having to weigh out, like, okay, do I trust this man around my daughters or around my son? Like that part, that's the scary part. That doesn't mean, just go and stay with the person because it's easy. I don't hear you saying that at all. I don't hear you urging people to like, okay, well, because you didn't know, just kind of accept me. You know what I'm saying? I don't hear you saying that, which is great. But what I do hear you saying, like the heart behind what you're saying, is just that if you want to be with me, like, are you going to really tarry with me because this is what I've been through? And I think that's the portion that people forget. Okay, I say I want to be with him. He look good. He's what I want. But then he got some stuff with him, and they brush the stuff underneath the rug. They brush the struggle, the pain.
Until it hits a fan.
Yeah, but then it comes back up. I remember when I first met you, Dale, somebody used this example. It's almost like having an inflated beach ball that you're holding underwater. As soon as you take your hand off of that beach ball, it's going to come back up to the surface. And it's like, I think in our minds and in our hearts, because we want to move on from the pain and hurt, and we want to move on from the trauma, and we want love for ourselves. We do. I think that we hold that beach ball down, and then slowly but surely, we fall in love, or we find ourselves in a marriage or in a relationship. And it's just kind of like so many other things in life come at us that beach ball come back up. And it's like, whoa, hold up. I thought I was over that. I thought I was past that. Yeah. That was a non-issue. Where's this coming from?
And I said in our last episode, Reno, sorry, I didn't say it in our last episode. I said it in a previous episode. I'd like you to kind of give some insight into that. Cause I know you've dated after marriage, but one of the statements that I made, was that when you first get married, we always say, "Oh, I love you. Oh, I love you, Reno. I love you, Sherelle." But it's like, I'm convinced that when you first marry somebody, you actually don't love them. Like, what actually makes you love somebody is when you guys go through things, when y'all go through hell, go through struggle, go through the fire, go through the fighting and the arguing and the sleepless nights, and you guys both remain there. You guys work things out over the days, the months, the weeks, the years, and you remain together, and your love actually grows. Because oftentimes, like, I know cats that they get married and 6 months later they're divorced because there wasn't any love there. The moment they see, oh my God, Reno was an animal, Odell was an animal, man, I'm out of here. Pew! So just I mean, it's the truth though, man. Like, because people say things like, "Oh yeah, I love the Lord, brother. I love you, man. I love you, girl. I love you." But it's like, you don't love me, yo. Like I'm a skeptic. Like, I always tell my wife, like, I don't think they love you. I don't think he loved me or that she loves you, because oftentimes I hear what people say, but because of my childhood, I've learned to observe people. And when your actions show me that you love me, then I can tell you that you love me.
Well, it's never what we go through.
Yeah.
I believe the foundation of understanding what love is understanding the Son of God and the way he loved, and understanding the scriptures that talk about love, because in those passages out of the book of 1 Corinthians 13, when it talks about love, it tells you all of the characteristics that love is. And it's so many characteristics of what love is that it's so many. It's almost like God is saying that it is going to take time to love somebody, as you're saying, Dale. You know, he says love is patient. Well, a lot of people come to find they're not really patient. After marriage, a lot of people come to find they're not really patient, you know, but he says love is patient. And so as we suffer together, like you talked about, as we challenge each other, as you discussed, we come to develop patience. And so our love has become that much more stronger. And people don't see it like that, but that's the way it is. Love is like a seed. It's constantly growing. So a lot of times people don't know what love is, and the characteristics are right there in the scripture, 1 Corinthians 13, the love chapter. So that's the foundation. Well, my second point is, we'll come to find that love is not as emotional as people think it is. There is a part of love that's emotional.
Yeah, what do you mean?
I would say that's more connected to eros, which is a lust love. So there is a part of love that's emotional, but the vast majority of the concept of love is not emotional. It's responsibility. Love is a responsibility.
Yeah.
We all know it's nothing new to anybody that responsibility must be held and done and acted upon, whether we feel like it or not. So love is responsibility. Matter of fact, I think you're more prone to get emotions out of being responsible as a result of love than you are to get emotion out of being emotional as a result of love.
That's good.
Say it again. Say it again.
That's true. I know.
Say it again.
Say it again for the people in the back.
Yeah, say it again.
I believe you're more prone to get emotion from somebody out of being responsible in love. When you're loving that person, you're more prone to get an emotional response as a result of being responsible in the boundaries of love from that person than you are more prone to get an emotional response as a result of being emotional in that love relationship with that person. In other words, I'll give an example. My wife's love language, for example, might be for me to take out the trash, to change the lights, change the oil in the car for her, to wash her car. She might have a BMW. She don't want to take it to the car wash. You know, car washes are scratch it up, put, little micro scratches. She's real anal about stuff like that. She wants me to wash her car for her every Saturday. That's what my baby wants. It's her love language. But I don't do it because whatever reason or another, I may have forgotten, or I don't do it because I might feel like I'm too good for that. Those things that she wants me to do are responsible behaviors. Those are responsible behaviors. She wants me to take out the trash. I take out the trash. I should already do it, but that's just her love language for me to take out the trash and help her wash the dishes, wash the car. My point is that her love language that she wants me to speak is connected to responsibility. After I own up to the responsibilities, that's her love language, I am more prone to get emotional connection with her than just by me trying to get emotional connection with her out of being emotional.
Yeah.
Love is responsibility. And I come to learn that through my own experiences. Love is more responsibility than saying, it's more about responsibility than saying, baby, I love you. It's more about responsibility than cutting out little hearts for her from a cardboard that you got from Walmart. It's about responsibility more than bringing her flowers. It's about responsibility more than kissing her on the cheek. It's about responsibility more than any of those things. And out of that responsibility to her, you're more prone to get an emotional connection in the aftermath than trying to get a emotional connection with just emotion. And that's really how women are.
So I wanted to ask you, how was the dating game for you? Because, I mean, as I say, you were incarcerated for 12 and a half years. You got married for 3 years. Then you stayed to yourself for a couple of years. Then you got back into the dating game. Like, how was that different for you? What are things that you liked about it? What are things that you didn't like about it?
When I was locked up, I missed all my 20s, every single last one. And the 20s is, for a lot of people, the stage of developing your adulthood, or the years of developing your adulthood. And to be able to do that in society is crucial, because in society, you learn every aspect of responsibility, whereas in the penitentiary, you don't have much responsibility. So therefore, there's not much to learn. Therefore, when you get out, you're not really equipped like the average person would be. When I got out, even though I was in my 30s, I was really in my 20s.
Mentally?
Mentally, that's a
Yeah.
very, yes, mentally. And that's a message that needs to be understood. That's another subject. That's a whole lesson that needs to be understood, because you got a lot of people in society, a lot of people that have incarcerated love. Yeah, they love their incarcerated love.
Yeah. We'll come
So
in.
I was in my 20s. Even though I was 30 years old, mentally I was in my 20s. I was in my early 20s, even though I was 32 years old. And so when I got out, I was around women. Before I went in, I was around girls, but I was messing with girls because I was a boy when I went in, as far as age is concerned. And even once I got out, I was still a boy as far as, the mentality is concerned. And so, it came from the school of the hard knocks. My experiences came from the school of the hard knocks, but the kind of women I dated was quickly teaching me what it means to have a worthwhile relationship with a woman. So, and I was observing. I'm like a sponge. I observe. I learn fast. I learn as I go. I pay attention to it. I receive the correction. I receive the rebuke. I receive the hardships. I receive the struggles, the lessons in those things is what I mean. I receive all the lessons in those things. And so for me, for example, when I talked about love being a responsibility, I'll give you an example of one lady I was getting to know. She needed me to help her in her yard. She was putting I think she was planting some flowers in her yard, and wanted to put rocks around the tree as well with the flowers. And she asked me if I was willing to help her, and that would have been a way we could connect through the working in her yard, and so I said, yeah. And here I come, showing up to her house all late with some flowers. She's already on the ground, already dirty. She'd been working there for about an hour and a half here. And I'm showing up all late with some flowers, trying to give her some flowers. And she's on the ground, me's on the ground, and she's all dirty. And there I am standing over her with some flowers like everything is okay. And she gave me a look like, what the, like, man, what are you doing? I asked you to come. You gave me your word, and here you come with some flowers. And I've been working in this yard for an hour and a half. You gave me your word. That's where that love is responsibility comes at. There I was trying to connect with her emotionally with flowers, when she had a whole act of responsibility that she wanted me to do along her side that meant more to her than anything else, and would have drawn a lot of good emotion out of her, in contrast to the flowers that made her mad. So it was experiencing those things that I've come to learn the ways of love in those kind of experiences. And so I can say that a lot of times, experiences is probably the best way to learn when you haven't been taught properly. Mind you, I think the best way to learn is by having mentors, by having points of reference, and then experience follows. But in some cases, with some people, experiences become first priority and become the mentor of your life. And let's just hope we can learn fast from those experiences.
No, isn't there a saying? When I first started coming around Dale, and I was bringing my son around him, my son wasn't like listening, and so I would just hear I would hear Dale say it, or like those he was walking with say, "Oh, he's going to learn it either way. He's going to either learn by instruction or he's going to learn by experience." And I cringed whenever I heard that. Like when I first started to hear that. And I'm just kind of like, oh, but why don't he just listen? Like, if I just said it, I'm trying to help him. But, in the same way, I'm very much so a hands-on, like I have to,
Learn by example.
I do. I mean, and I don't like that about me, but a lot of times I do have to learn by example. So I definitely hear you on that. When you were saying that, I was envisioning just the different ones, because it's popular now for women to say, like, well, if a man want to date me, he got to pay for this and pay for that and, you know, take me out, or I want to get flued out. That's the term. In case you didn't know, that's what the young cats is saying nowadays.
Well, if a man flying you out, he gonna want something in return too.
I mean, well, yeah,
put him on game and shoot.
No, I mean, well, yeah, of course. But
if you a respectable woman, you better fly yourself out, because if he fly you out, them clothes coming off tonight.
Oh my gosh. Anyway,
I mean, am I lying, Reno?
No, typically, that's the typical thinking pattern.
That's the world, man.
Well, no. So, listen, this is what I was going to say, though. I was going to say the responsibility part. I really do agree with you. I think it does build up, the love that you have, and not only the love, but just the trust that you have.
Yeah,
that trust that you have in someone's love for you. Like, you can trust and believe, because I think there's this false notion that, like, oh, they love me, so they should bring me flowers. They should bring me candy. They should, fly me out or whatever, or surprise me. But I think that's the result of the time spent, of the love. So, I mean, I think that it's a nice gesture, but I could just imagine you, like, young kid pulling up with some flowers and this woman looking at you like really, bro? Like, and so I kind of laughed, but not at, you misunderstanding, or not you not understanding.
Can I
Mm-hmm.
Can I interject?
Mm-hmm.
Not young kid, but young in experience.
No, that's what I know. No, hey,
young kid.
There's times where I've seen Dale where I might have been upset or whatever, and I can just see the purity and the innocence. So that's what I mean. Not young kid, but like, you can just see the purity and the innocence in what someone really showed up, and
what they interpreted, basically. What they interpreted.
Yeah, and the interpretation, and it's like, oh dang, I let you down. Like, I've seen that face, and it almost reminds you of a child. Like, it was a childlike innocence to what you did, And so that's what I'm saying. I'm seeing, not that you were a child, but just the innocence, the heart behind it. And so I think that a lot of times we go out into the world, looking for a partner, looking for that grand gesture. And I mean, a lot of times we may get it. We may just get it. But then you're right. That responsibility, that part where we're actually walking out, like you said in 1 Corinthians 13, the love, the kindness. It was something that was said while we were in counseling, actually, before we got married. I was told that love always trusts. And I was like, it don't exactly say that. So how am I supposed to believe that love always trusts? And I think that goes hand in hand to what you're saying. It's just like, if you're showing me by your actions, and what Dale says too, like, if you're showing me by your actions, anyone can say that they love you, but what I'm hearing you say is that it's your actions that actually carries out the love. It reminds me of Jesus dying on the cross. And it's like, he can say, oh, I died for your sins. And it could be a hypothetical, I died. Oh, I groaned and I died. No, he literally died for us to show, like, the true expression of love. He demonstrated that. And not that we asking for, our spouse to die for us, but at the same time, it's like, die to your selfishness. Because like you were saying earlier, being like, we come into marriage being selfish just on an everyday basis. But it's like, we have to actually die to ourselves, die to our wants, and sometimes our needs. We have to die to those things and put on display, I'm going to push through and I'm going to tarry with whatever this person is going through. And I just feel like for you, maybe that hadn't been your experience coming out of the system, was just somebody who, one, understood love, what love really was, and then two, someone who had the heart to really tarry with you and what you've been through.
And I also wanted to add, Reno, one of the biggest things that I've learned just from the difference between younger women and older women, and when I mean older, I'm like 30, 31, 32, is that, like, oftentimes when dating, younger women don't really know how to articulate what they want or what they need, versus an older woman doesn't mind telling you, hey, this is what I need. This is what I don't need. You know what I'm saying? So for you, I think you were able to learn because you were 30, 31, but you were still mentally a 20-year-old kid, but you were also around women who were 30 years old. And because they lived out all their 20s, they knew what they wanted. And I feel like oftentimes, I feel like even in marriage, that's the biggest thing in a marriage, that people don't articulate what they need or what I want or what they don't like. Say, hey, I don't like when you do that. I don't like when you say that. Like, you have to articulate that because people don't know. I think that's one of the biggest things that me and my wife had to learn in our marriage, how to let the other person know when they're doing something that makes you feel uncomfortable, or when they're doing things that you don't like, and we feel like, well, I don't want to do that, because it's like, dude, because it's going to come out two ways. Either you're going to say, I don't like that in love, or it's going to come out in the means of conflict, which by that point, one of the two parties would have gotten angry and is coming out in a more aggressive and disrespectful way. So I think, because earlier I took notice when you said I was learning from these women who were my friends, but it's like, yeah, because they were older women. Now that I'm in my 30s, what I've learned is that I don't mind telling people how I feel. I don't mind saying what I like and don't like, because I'm an older man now, so I've learned throughout my 20s how to articulate what I feel and how to articulate what it is I want to say and say it. So I say what I mean, and I mean what I say. When you're earlier in your 20s, and this is not for everybody. I don't want anybody to be like, well, that's not true. I learned how to say what I want. Not true for everybody, but when you're younger and you're in relationships, you kind of have to learn how to articulate what it is you want to say or how you're feeling, versus by the time you've gotten older, you've already learned how to do those things.
I agree. It depends on the person. Some people are stubborn, and you have to have a willing spirit for change, or you have to have a willingness to change. And I think that that's been the greatest benefit for me, is that I was always willing. I was always willing. One of my relationships, the same one that got upset when I came with the flowers, and she was all in the yard, working in the yard and everything, and I'm all late with the flowers. And so I missed her love language opportunity. I was wrestling with anger in that season. I was getting frustrated at some outside things that was going on in my life, apart from, seeing her from time to time and whatnot. And I would bring that anger to the relationship. And out of my anger, I just broke up with her. That's it. We're done. We're through. Don't call me no more. Don't text me no more. That's it. And of course I didn't mean it. I said it out of a fit of rage. And the next day I called back and I pretend like nothing ever happened. And I was like, yeah, so I got tickets for such and such. I'm basically acting like nothing ever happened. You know how we do. I got tickets for such and such, or when we're going to catch the movie, or when we're going to go back out again, and this, that, and the third, just pretending like nothing ever happened. And she said, look, I still got to process the way you came at me last night. And then from there, she just never took me back. And so I was sick. That haunted me. It messed with me. It hurt me. She never took me back. And I begged and I pleaded and I promised this and I promised that. And she never took me back. Let's just say after that, I never got angry with a woman ever again.
You learn from your mistake.
To this very day, I don't throw that anger fit with women. I don't throw the anger fit. I don't do that no more. And because I learned my lesson. She rejected me, and I owned up to it, said it was my fault. I had a spirit that was willing to learn from that. To this very day, I don't get angry like that with a woman that I'm in an active relationship with. I don't practice that at all. And so,
same here.
It's true.
Sherelle can vouch for that.
Hey, don't be speaking for Sherelle on this side. Sherelle can speak for herself.
So you gotta have the willing spirit. For change, and that's how you get better. And we can get better. It is possible to come out of the unorthodox, no matter what it was, and to become orthodox. It's possible to come out of abnormality and to become normal.
You just have to be willing. A wise man always say to me,
the words right out of my mouth.
If you are willing, God is able.
They actually have a whole song about that. Isn't that a Kirk Franklin song?
Everything.
I don't know.
I'm sorry, because it popped up in my head. Like, I have a song for everything. I'm like, there's actually a song for that.
And everything that I am right now, I'm mature. I'm way more mature. It's genuine. It's really, really genuine. But the key word is I was willing to make the transition. And I'm still I'm still with the help of the Holy Spirit making subtle transitions and everything. It's always a growing process. We'll never stop growing.
Yeah, I wanted to
None of
ask
us.
you, like, so if you were to get remarried today, do you think that some of the things that you dealt with in your past will come back up and affect your marriage? I know that you say you've overcome having feelings and bitterness and anger, but do you still see it affecting your marriage, like a new marriage?
No.
Why is that?
Because there's a couple of reasons.
He's talking like
Number one, all of that stuff is very stressful. This is me personally.
Mhm.
Number one, all of that stuff, the drama, even if it's a little bit, it's
Amen.
very stressful.
Amen.
It's stressful.
Preach, man. Preach.
It's to the just naturally. It's the kind of stress, man, that'll make you put two fingers between your nose and just squeeze. Headaches, physical headaches. You can get high blood pressure from stress. So that stuff for me it's very stressful. That's number one. Number two, at the end of the day, I don't want to be so right. Well, my wife, we're arguing, she's challenging me, whatever the subject is, whatever the subject matter is, I don't want to be so right that I'm so stubborn and I go sleep on the couch. Again, that's more stress because let's face it, some people who go and sleep on the couch because of indifference with a spouse, you're not really sleep on that couch. You stressful sleeping on that couch. So why even go through it?
Yeah.
Why even go through it? I'm willing to bet money. The average person who goes their separate way from their spouse because they cannot resolve the conflict and they go sleep on the couch or they're balled up on the other side of the bed, I'm willing to put money on it. Majority of people are probably not even really sleeping anyways because it's still stressful. You're trying to sleep, but you're stressed out. You're stressful sleeping. So why even go through that anyways?
Yeah.
Why?
It's pride, man.
Well, no, I was going to say when you're married, it's like there's things that's going to come out. And so I was just wondering, do you ever think or fear that your past will, not that you hiding it or anything, but do you think that those feelings will rise up? Because, kind of like that beach ball, I feel like, especially when you married, it's like, oh man, like I really thought I was in a perfect place to be married and I wouldn't deal with anger in my marriage. And the Lord knew to bring someone who will get on my last nerves. And so not that I'm angry with him.
I got a few black guys to prove it.
You got a few black guys. Don't put that out there. Anyway, I do not put my hands. Anyway,
I'm joking.
No, but I was just thinking about that. Like, I mean, you sound very hopeful, which is great. Like, that's amazing. I just wanted to know, like, your thoughts. Like, the reality of it is, marriage is stressful. But what I'm hearing is just that you're not in that season of your life where you're actively going through that.
He's an older man.
I mean, but Dale, I know some older men in my family that been through things as children.
Yeah, but they're godless.
Godless or not, I think that you still go through things. Like, I still think that marriage will just bring that out of you. And not because, like, oh, your husband or your wife wants to bring that out of you. Like, oh, yeah, you've been angry. I just want to see the anger, right? But I think it's just because the Lord is using your spouse and using your relationship to really put on display that perfect love. And because of that, he is taking you through things so that you can truly say that you're an overcomer.
No, I agree.
I
was just joking before, but yeah, I do agree.
I want to answer it again.
Okay.
In kind of the same way, but I want to answer it again in a different way. It's kind of the same way, but it's in a different way. Again, I want to say I don't think that those things will come back up because you have your theory, what you want in theory, and then you have what you're dealing with in reality. I've really taken the time to deal with my realities. I've contemplated my realities. What I wanted to be in theory, I was that in theory. I played the part. I could get a Grammy for it. An Emmy, not a Grammy, because a Grammy is dealing with music. But I could get an Emmy for it. Probably a Grammy too. Because I told some lies. That's audio. I told some lies. So, but I could get an Emmy and a Grammy with all that I wanted to be to her in theory. But being these things in theory, just like we imagine things in theory, it shortchanges us every single time to the point where we're sick and tired of being sick and tired. The theory causes us to want to deal with the reality, or it should at least cause us to want to deal with the reality. So I've been at a place in my life where, man, let me get down to the reality. This is what I am in reality. This is what I need to do to change that in reality, or the reality is going to end up being a nightmare that I can never change.
Okay.
Eventually, time. I don't want that to happen to me. That's almost my worst nightmare, is that I run out of time to deal with my reality.
Yeah.
That's like my worst nightmare.
A lot of people don't know this, but like when me and my wife were going through dark times in our marriage, I would actually call Reno. It's funny because he actually used to piss me off a lot because he would tell me things that I didn't want to hear. Like, man, you tripping, be nicer to your wife, speak kind to your wife. And it would piss me off. I ain't gonna lie. That's why in different podcasts I always say that you need people like Reno in your life who are gonna tell you the truth. Yeah, it's gonna piss you off, but it's like, would you rather have somebody in your life that loves you and gonna tell you the truth and you be mad at them for telling you the truth, or somebody that's going to watch your relationship burn and perish and dissolve? And I feel like oftentimes I thank God that you're not a yes man. And I thank God that you don't say things to tickle my ears. I remember one time I called you, I was angry at my wife.
Mm-hmm.
You weren't angry at me.
Yeah, I was. But I don't forget it. I was driving on 97 and you said something to me that made me think. You said, would you rather I tickle your ears? And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, man, the audacity of this guy. But when I got calm and I thought about it, it was the truth. It's like you calling me. I'm telling you the truth. I'm telling you, you need to be a better man. I'm telling you, you need to love your wife. I'm telling you, you need to be more patient with your wife. I'm telling you, take your wife out. Like, would you rather I just tickle your ears? What do you want me to do? Because I can lie to you. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of listeners, I'm out there. My older brother, he's not only my natural brother, but he's my brother in Christ. He's also a mentor to me as well. A lot of things that he's lived and learned from his divorce, he's shared with me and taught me so that I don't have to go through that. And one of the things that he would always tell me is that, man, strife will kill a marriage. I always argue all the time. It'll kill a marriage, man.
Amen. Glory to God. I'm glad we're able to talk about the reality of how we live and our mistakes and what we overcome and create new stories.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Well, I've enjoyed this conversation with you and with Dale today.
I do want to say thank you.
Thank you for being on. As always, I love you. You know that my wife loves you, and I know that you love her.
Yes.
And,
love you too. I love you too.
Real quick before we end, I got to say this to you guys. I say it with distaste in my mouth, but he's actually not a Cowboys fan. Believe it or not. He's a Carolina Panthers fan. I don't even know how we even related. You know what I'm saying? Because
I'm a Panthers fan. All right.
Oh my goodness.
All the way. But I like Dallas colors though. I like the colors.
You said I like the colors.
Oh really?
Yeah.
You had to end on that note.
I got to.
We had a deep conversation.
I had to expose him. I had to expose the brother. I had to expose his brother.
You know what, Dale? You canceled. You are canceled. Anyways, thank you for tuning in, guys. All the links will be, I guess, shared around on our platforms, on our Instagram and our Facebook. Follow us at About This Love. Definitely follow our Discord, About This Love, #4121. And that link will also be in the main link or in the links shared in the description bar. So definitely check us out. With that being said, Dale, close us out. Go ahead, close us out.
Next time, peace.
Thank you for tuning into today's podcast episode. Be sure to follow and share your thoughts as we continue the conversation on About This Love's Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube channel. Join the About This Love community on Discord. The ATL podcast episodes can be found on all podcast streaming platforms. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, please consider submitting a donation via PayPal or Cash App to keep our podcast going. Click on the link below to find our podcast and social media platforms. Thank you. Until next time, peace.